Alrighty, everybody. If you are online, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good. The bad thing is we can't hear you.
Good, we can hear you.
If you're online, could you please say something?
Yeah, we can hear you. My name is John.
Thank you, John.
Hi, my name is Esme.
Hey, Esme.
It's Kyle. Can you hear Kyle?
Yes, I hear Kyle.
Here.
This is Megan.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. All right, can you say some more stuff, please? All right, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. We're having a few technical difficulties at the moment, so we're going to work through that. In the meantime, there's pizza plates and napkins in the back. So if you're in person, feel free to help yourself, and please feel free to enjoy your chicken in front of you.
Yeah, I got appointed by the governor. So alumni, and I guess they thought I need to build the shoes. So there we go. The governor. Yeah, exactly. I haven't had any malfeasance or gross negligence or anything. They want, sponsor to, Yes, I won't have to say it was Governor Snyder, but it would be not Governor. Exciting time. I've seen not a lot of it in other areas, nonprofits and stuff like that. So, the academia, staff, like, yeah,
All right, everybody, it looks like our technical difficulties are just my incompetence. So with that being said, we're going to start moving into our agenda. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Like I said, feel free to continue if you want to go and get pizza in the back of the room. That works. Otherwise, this meeting is officially called to order at 4:37 p.m. Woo! Yay! All right, so first of all, as you may know, there are chickens in front of you. And this is an interesting story, so please bear with me. This was supposed to be your holiday gift for me at the December joint session. They arrived a day late. I was not happy. But now that I have them out on the table, so you feel free to use them as much as you want. I should have thought about that. Anyways, I'm going to first start with an approval of the joint session meeting minutes from January. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes? So moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there consent? Consent has been called. Any opposition?
I oppose those chickens. Reaching the limit.
All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the agenda. It has not changed since it was sent out to everybody. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there consent? Consent has been called. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, only a chicken, we can move on to communications. We will first start with recognition of Black History Month. I printed off something that I'd like to read and share with all of you, and then I'll open the floor to anybody that'd like to share anything they did in recognition of Black History Month throughout February. The story of Black History Month begins in 1915, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. That September, Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and the prominent minister Jesse E. Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and other peoples of African descent. Known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the group sponsored a National Negro History Week in 1926, choosing the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. The event inspired schools and communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, establish history clubs, and host performances and lectures. In the decades that followed, mayors of cities across the country began issuing yearly proclamations recognizing Negro History Week. By the late 1960s, thanks in part to the Civil Rights Movement and a growing awareness of Black identity, Negro History Week had evolved into Black History Month on many college campuses. President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, calling upon the public to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history, end quote. Today, Black History Month is a time to honor the contributions and legacy of African Americans across the United States history and society, from activists and civil rights pioneers such as Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and leaders of industry, politics, science, culture, and more. In 2022, the theme for Black History Month was Black Health and Wellness, and explores, quote, the legacy of not only Black scholars and medical practitioners in Western medicine, but also other ways of knowing throughout the African diaspora. The 2022 theme considers activities, rituals, and initiatives that Black communities have done to be well, end quote. And this all came from histories.com's website. So, I hope that everyone was able to celebrate Black History Month in some way, shape, or form. Is there anything that anybody would like to shout out that they did? Yeah, 1 second, I'll run the microphone over to you.
So BSU, we did, for the first Monday of Black History Month, we did a call to action. And we did Black Love Week, which was last week. We've been doing stuff since Sunday last week, and we're still doing stuff. We have an event today too. But Monday we did last minute love. So like we sold like strawberries, pretzels, Rice Krispie treats. Then we did a re-education series, which we're still continuing that. That's next week. We're gonna have the Kalamazoo Promise come with a bunch of high school students and talk to high school students about like more information on like schools and other things you can do with education. And then Tuesday, we did Black Table Talk, well, Black Love Table Talk. And then Wednesday, we did a Black Expo. Thursday, we did Painting with a Twist. Friday, we did a Night to Remember with Rio. Saturday, we did movie night. Sunday, we did community service. And we're still not done, so.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to shout out something that they did in recognition of Black History Month this year? All right, hearing and seeing that, I just want to say thank you to BSU for all their awesome work on this campus. And with that, we will move on to the next topic, which is the USGM debrief. I invite President Morris to come to the podium.
Happy Western Wednesday, everybody. How are we doing? Anyways, so I know I have been allotted 10 minutes to speak to you all on behalf of the conference that we attended. I don't think I will need 10 minutes, but I want to provide you all an update on the delegation who went this past weekend to the United Student Governments of Michigan Conference. It was the first in over 2 years where all 15 public universities across the state were able to gather in one space, which really unique and interesting opportunity to say the least. And yeah, so I think that for context, it was great, but it also had its not so great moments. And I felt compelled to write a letter addressed to you all to let you know a little bit more about what happened. And then if there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. So before those questions open up, I will just read this letter because it is addressed to you guys as students of Western Michigan University. So. This weekend, February 18th and 19th, 2022, a delegation of 7 Western Michigan University students, including myself, attended the United Student Governments of Michigan Conference, hosted by University of Michigan Flint, University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and University of Michigan Dearborn. As a delegation, we were tasked with representing Western Michigan University and the Western Student Association in all aspects of the conference. While preparing for the conference in the weeks prior, we wholeheartedly believed that this conference would provide our delegation with an opportunity for growth. An opportunity to prioritize connection and education with fellow student leaders from across the state of Michigan. I write to you or tell you today that our optimism was not only misguided, but also misplaced. Even from the conference's official onset, the message became clear. We, as a delegation, were invited to sit idly as larger schools, student governments were vocalized and celebrated on their own achievements. At each touch point throughout the conference, our delegation, amongst many others, was subjected to consistent neglect. Throughout the conference's legislative day on Saturday, February 18th, suggestions from smaller schools were continually ignored, In one instance, during a legislative session dedicated to 21st century mental health, pre-submitted legislation from our delegation, which you all helped write at the Senate meeting prior to that, went missing. And it was only considered after leaders from our delegation brought up the issue not once, but twice. Meanwhile, delegates from 2 larger schools chaired the session on mental health and proceeded to push their self-serving legislation that didn't apply to the vast majority of schools. Eventually, our Western Michigan bill on establishing a mental health observation period, so it did change from a week, change to a period, as other schools aren't as fortunate of us to have the funding that we do to put on a whole week. But it wasn't not prior to a larger school's delegate inaccurately proposing the legislation on the floor. So even though Western Michigan authored the bill, another school decided it was their responsibility to introduce the legislation. It was really disheartening for our delegation. As our delegation fought time and time again to be included in legislative conversations throughout the conference, and most notably at the United Legislative Session, our delegation quickly recognized the key difference between our delegation and other delegations. We have an entirely different philosophy on student government than the majority of schools in our state. Good or bad, here at Western, student government prioritizes the maintaining of open doors for all who wish to join. Here at Western, student government prioritizes collaborating with university administrators and campus partners to achieve real and actionable change. We believe parliamentary procedure should not be used to gatekeep, but rather to give voice to bold ideas. We believe that meaningful collaboration and tangible change can only come when we surrender our superiority complexes and lean into our differences. Perhaps most importantly, however, is that we at Western Michigan University acknowledge our humanity at the forefront of all that we do. Hence, when our delegation's humanity became a secondary consideration to other delegations, I decided to take an actionable stance. And rather than tolerating the conditions which the United Legislative Session happened at the conference's close, I made one of the boldest decisions of my administration. And I decided to walk out. Rather than subjecting our team to even more hours of consistent degradation, diminishment, and dismissal, I decided that enough was enough. And I still stand by that decision now. While the circumstances surrounding the decision are certainly not honorable, I can say that with complete confidence that our delegation at Western Michigan University is incredibly proud of our delegation and our decision. We as a delegation of 7 passionate students from Western Michigan University are proud to have left the conference with our integrity intact. Even in the face of fundamental disrespect, our team had the courage to take an unapologetic stance against carelessness and divisiveness. If nothing else, this conference has made us even more proud of the work that we have done and will continue to do as an evolved organization on this campus. Let it be known that we, as a representative body of Western Michigan University, do not support the intentional exclusion of individuals different from ourselves. But we're still perplexed as to how a conference with the mantra of united we stand, divided we fell managed to operate and conclude in such a discordant way. At the end of the day, we're all Broncos first and foremost. Our unwavering devotion is and will always be to the student body of Western Michigan University. While this experience was undeniably disappointing from our delegation, there's no denying that we are proud to have blessed the Broncos once more. Over the course of the past year, our organization has radicalized change and revolutionized approach to student government. These changes are evident in every aspect of the organization and within every student who considers themselves a member of the Western Student Association. Our delegation recognizes that not every student government across the state has experienced these changes, and therefore we'd like to extend grace and forgiveness to these individuals. While we will no longer be pouring our efforts into those who do not prioritize our same principles and values, we will continue to do as we have always done, which is create a more accessible, inclusive, and sustainable student.
Okay, then I'll let him know that you
One
said
of
that.
these and then
The other ones I'm just gonna put at the store.
For the next generation of Broncos. As always, onward for the Brown and Gold. Thank you. The unfortunate experience, it felt like our voices weren't valued. So does anyone have any questions?
I was trying to meet the person who was talking. All right, thank you, President Morris. With that, we will move into our Director of the Department of Public Safety and Chief of Police, Mr. Scott Merlo.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, I hate to say it, I really don't have any formal presentation to provide to you. I really don't even have a formal agenda, if you will. My informal agenda is, it's been over 2 years since I've been in front of the WSA. It's my first 5 years, it seems like every year I was able to meet with WSA on numerous occasions. We had a really, really close working relationship. If anything, if there was an issue that came up or an important topic that the WSA wanted to talk, I mean, I was always accessible and always available. Fortunately, the last 2 years, as you can imagine, for all of us, it's been rough. So I just wanted to invite myself here. For my first thing is for you guys to at least know who I am. I've been here over 7 years. I am a Bronco. I graduated here in 1989. Some of us can, you know, it seems like it was yesterday for me. I love this university. I love our students. My department is here for you. Believe it or not, we are here for you. And it's important for us to hear what's important to you. You guys are the voice for all the students. It's been way too long since we've had any good communication. And I want to make sure that you know who I am. And please, anything that you guys want to discuss, I want you guys to contact us. We need this relationship with you guys. And I can talk about the department for an hour here. And so I would open it up if you guys have any questions about myself, my department, anything. I know that with Eric, we talked about the accreditation process we went through. It seems like it was yesterday, but in February of 2019, we voluntarily sought out our accreditation. It's based on 108 best practices. It took us 1.5 years to go through it. We're one of 40 departments out of almost 600 in the state of Michigan to be accredited. It has to do with, use of force, implicit bias, vehicle pursuit, you name it. All of our policies you can view online. Everything, all the guidelines that we follow, you can see what we hold our officers accountable for. All you have to do is go on our website, they're all there. And we just posted those probably about 2 months ago. And I don't think a lot of departments have those online, but we do. That's part of the transparency. We want you guys to know what we do and why we do it.
Real quick, before we go on to questions, could you just go and tell us what the 4 divisions are under your department?
Police department, emergency management, building security. Did I say parking? Parking's last. And it's our most popular. Believe it or not. It's our most, what'd you say?
Unpopular.
No, it's our most popular.
I love parking.
Everybody loves parking services. And it's the one thing that yes, that does fall under my supervision also. And they get a bad rap, but it's one of those things. I believe me, yeah, you can do the chickens all day on the park. But you have to understand too, a lot of, the parking passes and everything. I mean, there's 20 miles of roadway that we're responsible for the maintenance, the 4 parking structures. It goes on and on. The busing, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars comes out of the parking budget for the buses that you see driving around campus. So that's where a lot of that money goes. I mean, we don't pocket it, but that's where the money goes and we use it. And not to mention, I think 5 officers are paid from the budget of parking services. So we get a bad rap.
With that being said, is there any questions for Chief Merlo? If you're online, please just put me in the chat. We'll make sure to get to you. If you're in person, raise your hand. Representative Stein.
First of all, thank you for being here today. I guess mental health has been a priority of WSA for a couple of years now. I guess can you talk a little bit about what your department does in mental health crises, what you guys are looking forward to doing?
All of our officers are trained for CIT, crisis intervention. So we all go through it every year. We update it. We actually have been working with ISK here locally the last couple of months, where it's important. I mean, I think I'd say roughly, not just for us, but countywide, at least 10% of our calls deal with individuals that are experiencing mental health crisis. So the ISK and law enforcement, we partnered. We got like a $550,000 3-year grant And part of that's going to go to the response. So if the officers do respond to somebody that's in mental health crisis, we will have a counselor or social worker responding with us. And not just that, this one thing we're talking about, and we were just discussing it today, the lack of facilities here. I mean, it's really, if you've ever sought out, it's very difficult, but for the officers, if someone's in the midst of a mental health crisis, where can we take that individual? And there's very few facilities that, again, we were just talking about. Borges is one where there's times where by the 10 minutes after we drop somebody off that's truly in crisis, they're released because they don't accept them there. So that's another thing to do. That's going to be a facility that we can take somebody to. So we're always looking at how can we improve it. But the CIT training, which is, de-escalation, everything, all my officers are trained in that, and we use that every day here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there other questions?
Yes. Oh.
Someone else had one.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for coming here. I'm the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and I've had a couple people come up to me and approach me with ideas on restructuring, like the allocations of spots, like the W parking permits and the, I think, R as teachers, right?
Yes.
Who do we go to regarding these changes? And what steps we should take?
That's a good question. That has been a topic that we've debated frequently over the years, and that's got to probably be a cabinet discussion. I would assume. I mean, do you agree, Kayla?
I do.
Yeah, that would be a cabinet discussion, and that's a frequent complaint. I mean, especially the one over by Root Hall. It's for faculty, and that's oftentimes half full, where all the student lots tend to be full, and it's so that we just, my 7 years here, we discuss that every year, especially internally. But it's going to have to be cabinet that's going to have to make that ultimate decision on where. And keep in mind too, there's contractual obligations for faculty. They have to be provided their spots, and there's so many in the location. So that's always part of it also.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there other questions for Chief Merlo? Yes, Speaker Shapiro.
Hi there. So getting you with a second speaker here, Speaker of the Senate. So would you say that the majority of like the policies are generated at the trustee level, right? Is that what you're saying, or what's cabinet? Or presidential cabinet, I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay,
Presidential cabinet. In terms of like the parking and
okay,
there's allotted spots in the parking lots, are they going to be RWs and everything? That's
okay.
I mean, I can see the cabinet asking us what our opinion is going to be, and we provide that to them. But ultimately, if they're going to decide to switch those lots, it would probably be at that level, not at my level.
Could there potentially be like, and this is just like me thinking out, I guess thinking out loud, but like a potential idea is like, I know we have, but we ticket if you're parked in the wrong spot. Could there be incentive prizes if you have like 4 years of good drive or good parking, or like 1 year of good parking? It's like, here's $25 that you would have spent on a ticket. Congrats.
Okay, then what do we do for the people that get tickets every week then?
Oh, I mean, we'll just keep raising that, right?
I would agree. We're always looking for ideas and thinking outside the box. And one thing we did recently, it's most students only get 1 or 2 tickets when they're here. I mean, for the most part. So we will dismiss that first ticket automatically. You just, yeah, we're going to dismiss it. Before you'd have to go through I want to appeal this, and we discuss it. Now it's just your first ticket, it's done. And we work really closely with the students too, because sometimes it is confusing. And my staff will actually put a student in a car and say, let's drive. I'll show you where to park. And I will say, when I started here, is somebody once told me that we don't have a parking problem here on campus. We have a walking problem here on campus. And I do agree with that. We do have a lot of parking spaces available to students. Unfortunately, it's a 10-minute walk. You know what? Look, I don't like to walk 10 minutes either. My parking spot is right in front. I get it. But we do have spots that are available. When students are driving around Snyder Hall for 20 minutes looking for a spot, when you can park down by Goldsworth Valley and walk 5 minutes, and those are always available. I mean, that's our golden nugget for people right there. But yeah. So any ideas you have, we're open to it.
Keep that incentive in mind.
So I was saying, you haven't got a ticket yet, right? Is that what you're saying?
I've not gotten one.
Right.
Don't put me on a list.
Yeah, thank you.
We have Vice President Ewing next.
Hi, so I serve as WSA's VP for Student Affairs, and like Colin, I've heard a lot of people come to me asking, who do I talk to about like reallocating parking spots, I guess is the verbiage that we were using. Is there a person that we can direct them to? Or are we kind of responsible as WSA to make enough noise to get that change to happen? Like, is there somebody that we can direct them to so that they can talk?
Yeah, you wanna?
Well, okay, so typically things that are issues on campus come up through the division. So I think that with parking and having an idea of what spaces tend to be available and what areas don't, that it's probably a good thing for us to start with parking. But what I can do is I can make sure that it becomes something that's on cabinet's radar and that this is important to WSA. So it probably doesn't hurt for us to do some form of an assessment in order to better understand what usage is and look for where there is problem areas and then ways that we can at least address some of the easier fixes. You know, as you know, parking has always been an issue, not just on our campus, but on all campuses. But I think that having the expectation of students to do some form of an audit on a regular basis as your needs shift as the campus continues to change is important. So what I can guarantee you is that for our next meeting in March at Cabinet, we'll talk about it. So I'll coordinate with Chief Merlot so that it's something that we're both looking at through parking services and through Cabinet.
Thank you so much.
And we have a pretty good idea. We've done assessments too. Just like I said, this is a topic that comes up frequently, even internally. So admittedly, I'm not the parking expert, but I do have, like, my deputy chief, Tim Unix, he was the captain in charge of parking for a couple of years. Now it's Jeff Lillard, who's the captain, and then Carol Dina, who was my deputy chief and ran parking forever. I would still defer to her, even though she's retired. But we've done that assessment for the most part, and I could even bring those three in very easily, and they all have the opinion. They're all pretty much the same opinion on what to do. I will say this: we always get complaints about how much the parking passes are. We haven't raised that price in probably 15 years. We're right in the middle. We've done that assessment too. There's some colleges that are a little bit cheaper, and there's some that are a lot more, but we haven't raised it in over 15 years. What it's worth. For what it's worth.
Thank you. We're going to have our last question from Representative Pruitt.
Well, so my question to you is more regarding public safety. I know that off campus, especially down in Prattville area, that's where we find a lot of crime.
Yes.
What has been done in the past to combat that, and what are some future goals to continue increasing the awareness among students that there's a lot of crime out there, but also maybe like additional night patrols in the area, just to make sure that the police are present and people can see that.
It's always been an issue. That area, quite frankly, has always been. I lived in that area for 3 years. That was in 1986, 87, 88. Even that was an issue then. I think it's become more of an issue for a couple of reasons. There's other apartment complexes that are built now, even more adjacent. We have less students that are attending here. So a lot of those apartments and houses in that area that students would rent in previous years, they're not being rented to students. So we have a lot of non-students living in that area. What we've done, I retired from Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety 10 years ago. I worked really, really closely with that department. Grant Allers, who is one of my officers, he is assigned to the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety's Community Policing Unit, and the Fraternity Village located is his assigned area. So he's our liaison, if you will, too. So he stays on top of that. He does safety presentations. Because let's face it, the vast majority of our students that live off campus live in that area. So but every year is pretty consistent. Beginning of the year, from welcome week until probably mid-October, there's an uptick in crime. Some years are better than others. And we've had a couple of violent incidents. We've had shootings there too. The key for us is, how do we get that communication out? And we always look at, you guys educate yourself too. You can go on the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety's website. They have crime maps. You can see the crimes that are occurring there. You can sign up for crime alerts through them. We send advisories out for that, because we have alerts, which are Clery, what we have to do for Clery on campus and everything else. And years ago, we didn't have a mechanism to send out other than we just started doing Facebook and everything else. But now we do the advisories. Some of the issues are that sometimes we just don't know of incidents that are occurring there because KDPS is dispatched there, not us. We have one centralized dispatch, so that helps too with the communication. So there's not a lot of things that get biased, but sometimes we just don't know. We do have officers, we are deputized, so we can respond to anywhere in the county where we have, we're deputized, so we can. So we do spend time patrolling in that area. I'll say this though, my main responsibility and my main focus is the safety of and protection of our property and our students here on campus. But my officers do spend time, especially 3, 4, or 5 blocks down West Michigan at night. They drive through there. But we're always looking for ways that we can improve. It's a major focus for Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. I'll say that because they do understand the importance of Western. And like I said, we work closely with them every day. Especially during the beginning of school, before school, we meet weekly to discuss issues there. And we want that area to be safe. We need that area to be safe, and KDPS is the same way. I hope that answered a little bit. I can talk a little bit. And that's been, anytime there's a major incident there, I spent 3 to 4 days of the following week talking with students, talking with parents, talking with administrators. And this fall just seemed to be, there's separation. There seemed to be 1 or 2 after another. And there are times where there's an incident that happens and I'm aware of it, but I don't send out an advisory because there are factors that I know at the time, and a lot of it I look at, I'm not a news agency. I don't want to send information out just so you're aware of it. Because you can be made aware of it yourself. You can go on their crime mapping to figure out I want to send out information that's relevant and that has to do with your safety. If something is immediate and we need to send that information out for you to stay safe, we're going to send it out. And there's a few times where it's after the fact, or we have information where they're left the area. We know who they are. We know where they are. There's no immediate threat any longer. We don't send it out. And that's my decision on a lot of things. I get called. I'm the ones that send them out. And I'm the one that asks those questions. And oftentimes the chief of Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, he'll call me sometimes at 3 in the morning to say, hey, we've had an incident here. You should be aware of it. Because he knows that, again, the advisories and everything, and the importance of that area, of course. So we can talk about this for hours, just you and I decide. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Chief Merlo, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause.
All right, next up we have Miss Emma Barada from We Talk.
Hi, everybody. By the way, I've never received a parking ticket and I'm now a graduate student. I wish that was on my diploma. It's a really big point of pride for me. Anyways, so I'm here today just to talk really briefly for a few minutes about all of the things that we are doing with We Talk here at WMU. So above all, our purpose as a group is to foster a campus culture of responsible and respectful civic, social, political, and policy engagement, which is a mouthful. But in general, our goal is to foster conversations between people who disagree. And that is a really difficult thing to do, especially right now. It's something I personally have certainly struggled with. And I think that's why I've become so passionate about doing this work, is because I've seen the effects of how hard it is to disagree with someone and to humble yourself in that situation. And so you guys are all familiar with the work that we did with Irshad Manji. She did some programming with you all. And so we're building on that work, expanding the Moral Courage Network. We're going to start encouraging students to apply for her mentorship program. We are currently working on providing scholarships for students to be able to participate in that, as well as fostering some community groups to do it as well. On the campus end of things that we are doing ourselves, we are really, really excited to be bringing a national speaker to campus at the end of next month. Unfortunately, I am not at liberty to say who that is quite yet, but the announcement will go out next week, and that person will be here March 28th and 29th, if you guys want to mark your calendars for that. And they will be bringing further programming related to having conversations across divides, engaging in civil discourse and viewpoint diversity. And then the two main things I really wanted to talk to you all about today that we're doing regularly on campus and we would love to have all of you participate in. The first one is moving conversations at WMU. This is a 45-minute conversational exercise that was developed by Dr. Doug Lepisto of the Leadership and Business Strategy program. So in conjunction with them, as well as with support from the Heterodox Academy and the Fetzer Institute, which are two organizations who support the work that we do. Dr. Doug leads a group of about 20 people, give or take, through an experience. I really think you have to participate in it to understand how it works. But essentially, you're going to talk to someone and learn how to build compassion for someone that you've never met before. Trust me, it's a little overwhelming at first to sit across from somebody on a completely different end of campus, different title, everything like that. But I walked out of there, having built a friendship with someone in just 40 minutes, which is really amazing. And it's built on principles of positive psychology. So any opportunity you guys see, we don't have a current date for our next one. If you keep an eye on our website, there'll be more opportunities to do that. But the main thing I really wanted to talk to you guys about today, you'll find the posters on your tables, are our free speech cafes. We do one a month every semester, basically focused on educating people about their rights and responsibilities under free speech. So there are 2 to 3 panelists for each one. Last month, we had Haters Gonna Hate, learning how to respond intelligently to hate speech. That is up on YouTube, and you can find it in our Instagram bio if you want to go back and watch that one. Tomorrow at 3:30 in the Lee Honors College, we will have our February Free Speech Cafe, which is called Where is the Line? Talking about the difference between free speech protections and legitimate threats. So we have Jessica Swartz, our Deputy General Counsel here at WMU. She's our moderator and our constitutional law expert. But this time we're bringing in a second constitutional law expert. So Dr. Mark Hurwitz from the Department of Political Science, as well as Captain Michelle Karen of the DC Metropolitan Police Department will all be participating in this conversation. And they're going to zero in on how local law enforcement identify and respond to true threats. And they're going to talk specifically about the insurrection on January 6th. And the Black Lives Matter protests that took place in the summer of 2020. So it'll be a very interesting conversation to listen to. And we're really excited now that we are not only offering WMU Signature and Spurs credit, but you can actually get Lee Honors College credit for attending our events because we are partnered with them. So the rest of the events are on your posters there. I will not read about them. But if you guys have ideas about how you can encourage civil discourse on our campus, or you want to get involved in this work that we're doing, please reach out to us. We're trying to expand this as far as we can, and we really can't do that without student buy-in and student support of the work that we're doing. So if you go to our website, which is wmich.edu/wetalk, you can find me on the directory. Shoot me a personal email. I used to be a member of WSA just last year. So I know that you guys are all very busy, and it might sound like one more thing to do, but this work is so important. And this is really a point that could evolve the culture here at WMU. And as we're trying to push this outward into the community, we also want to make sure that it's trickling down within our own institution and that we're all buying into it if we're going to promote it. So if you have any questions, I can take them. But overall, we just would love to see you guys all out at our events and getting engaged in civil discourse.
Same thing, if you're online and you have a question, just put me in the chat. If you're in person, raise your hand and I'll run the microphone over to you. The problem with this method is I can't read the chat, so I'm going to walk.
That's just me, you're
good. Hearing and seeing no questions, thank you very much, Ellen, for coming today. Next up, we have the Vice Chair of Western Michigan University's Board of Trustees, Trustee Shelley Edgerton. If you'd like me to read that? Sure. Dr. Schuman's not this over, so
okay, that's all right.
he's very helpful.
Let's not make that too long.
So, Vice Chair Edgerton serves as the Legal Compliance and Government Affairs Counsel for Live Well Enlightened Health Michigan. Trustee Edgerton has more than 25 years of experience working in government at the local, state, legislative, and executive levels. In her role as Director of LARA, she was responsible for regulatory oversight and licensing management for the state of Michigan and oversight of more than 2,000 employees for 23 bureaus and agencies, including medical marijuana, fire, building, corporations, occupational safety and health administration, workers' compensation, professional licensing, community and health systems, liquor, and energy. She also oversaw the management of Lara's IT and data system. She proudly represents 3 degrees from WMU affiliations, a Bachelor of Science in Political Science and Political and Public Administration, an MPA in Public Administration, and a Juris Doctor from the WMU Cooley Law School. Her favorite book is A Time to Kill by Grissom, and when she asked to define success in one word, Trustee Edgerton says transformation. It is my privilege now to introduce Vice Chair to the WMU Board of Trustees, Shelley Edgerton.
Thank you all very much. I'm very happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all. And just so you know, I had quite a few parking tickets back in the day when I was in school. So, you know, we'll just get that out of the way. Anyways, I was asked to kind of talk about the board and kind of bring you guys up to background and knowledge and how we kind of function and operate. And I just want to say, I'm very pleased to see this group, you know, having served in the legislature for years and years and have the Senate, you know, it's great to see all of this representation here in one body. So I'm very happy. The board is comprised of 8 members appointed by the governor. Unlike U of M, Wayne State, or MSU, those other schools, I'll say, who have to run for election, we get appointed by the governor. We have an advice and consent hearing. I don't know if you guys do that for your officers, but anyway, sometimes it can be pretty grueling to go before a Senate body and have a lot of questions asked of you in terms of, you know, your philosophies and things going before the Senate. We are in 8-year terms. Every 2 years, somebody rolls off, and Kaylor, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Schumann, I should say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe trustees Reinbeld and Johnston roll off the board this year. We are very fortunate to have the governor just appoint, maybe you've read this in the news, former Representative John Foley to join the board. Yeah, absolutely. Get the chickens out. I think it'll be great. You know, I think what was something that he's going to be very unique, not only having been at Western before, but also represented the area. So very well versed in Western dynamics, but he is also a grad student. And so it's going to be an interesting, you know, dynamic to bring to the table. So looking forward to all of that. We select annually a chairperson, which is right now Lynn Chen Zhang. And then I just got appointed as vice chair. And then we have obviously treasurers, secretaries, and those are non-voting people, generally made of the university staff. Our role, fiduciary. I mean, you kind of can think of this as a corporate kind of structure thing. We are charged with overseeing the institution and the finances. We work together to make sure Western is going to be here 30, 40, 100 years from now, making sure that the kids, the students have excellent experience. And we work very hard to bring that forward to everyone. I mean, we reach across the whole institution from a perspective of operational and overseeing many of the policies and actions. We don't micromanage. I'll have to say that. We don't get as like the parking example. I mean, this is a cabinet thing. It wouldn't be something that would be brought to the board. It would be brought to the cabinet and handled kind of internally from that kind of thing. But some of our responsibilities, obviously, we oversee policies, finances, property ownership. We assess WMU programs. We approve the annual budget. We hire the president. We do that evaluation. And we support the students. We support elevating diversity, equity, inclusion, and we confer degrees and grant diplomas. I mean, that is, you know, the pinnacle of where you guys are all at and hopefully heading to. We function with an annual meeting schedule. I know I've met some of you at the regular meetings, so it's great to see more faces, and I hope and encourage all of you to come more often to learn about what the Board of Trustees does on a regular basis. We have those throughout the years, and we do, you know, various policies. We vote on various policies that have been presented. Sometimes it is from the faculty senate where they've done assessment of programs to get rid of certain degrees or programs or add some. So it's always interesting to be able to do things. And, you know, why we carry this overall authority for governance, we also look to our partners. And WSA, GSA, and the Faculty Senate are part of our shared governance. And we all have a role and opportunity to make sure everyone at Western succeeds. So I think it's wonderful. I think we've had a good year of collaboration. I hope these kind of things continue. I hope we get more trustees to maybe show up and appear for you guys. I think it'd be great to have that understanding. And I think we just, would like to continue our work together. I mean, the bottom line is every trustee is a leader in the community at one point, and we are all dedicated to ensuring Western succeeds. Students succeed. We're to be inclusive, to recognize the diversity, and we want to be able to make sure that students have all opportunities possible for them to excel in the new world. Thanks for all your time and energy. I know this is a lot of work for you guys. This is not easy, going to school, probably having jobs and everything else and participating in these kinds of activities, but I think it's a key to continuing to make sure that Western is the prime institution that it is. So happy to answer any questions. Go ahead, fire away.
Sure, we'll start with Speaker Shapiro. Once again, if you're online, you can still type me in the chat, and I have Colin reading for me. So
I have a couple questions. They're actually kind of pertaining to John Hoadley, who's not there. Two things. I think it's really neat that we have a student on the Board of Trustees, and I wonder if going forward, I don't know how you legislate the appointment process, but that maybe require a student on the board would be an interesting take going forward from a student.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the first, I guess, sort of question. What your thoughts on? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, that is, it's a legislative statutory requirement in terms of how Western people get appointed. So if you wanted to have that idea that mandates a student be one of the type of people that get appointed to the Board of Trustees, not only of Western, but the other universities, Central and otherwise Ferris, then that would have to be a change. So you'd have to, go to the legislature and ask for that. Unlike the Constitution that has the mandate for U of M, Wayne, and MSU to have elected officials, we just have the appointment via statute. So.
Also, okay, cool. Thank you for that. Another question I have, particularly, so again, sort of concerning John Hoadley, being a student. I know, as of recent, there's been certain tensions around the university about trustees making a decision one way or another. Does it make you guys uncomfortable thinking that perhaps there might be a professor out there, one of John Hoadley's professors, who might try to strong arm him into making a decision one way or the other? I know that's not out of the realm. I know it's completely unethical, but not out of the realm of possibility. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that as well.
Well, I think any of us could be strong armed. Let's be honest. I mean, I get calls all the time from people, their parents, of students, or whatever might be the case. I think it's the trustee's responsibility to take those calls and discuss them and have an open opinion on things. Obviously, there's eight people there, and if Trustee Hoadley is bringing forward an idea that's been pitched by a professor, or as you say, strong armed, I think that's worthy of any kind of discussion, because it might be a reflection of something else that's happening. I mean, he's obviously going to be closer to the ground if he's attending classes and hearing more things. I think he's also going to have a responsibility in terms of conflict. And I think this is kind of an unusual situation, because I don't know or recall, and I served in the Senate and did advice and consent hearings. I don't recall a time where an actual student was also appointed to a board of trustees. So I think it's kind of a new area. We're going to have to kind of navigate how he votes or what his reflection is. But I do think there's an opportunity for him to bring a lot more dynamic and information to the table that we may not hear all the time.
Yeah, and I would be particularly concerned that one very angry professor would put his grades in jeopardy because of that position.
Yeah, I would hope that it wouldn't go to that step. I would hope that you could have a discussion about points and things and information that leads up. But most importantly, it's always, there's always two sides to every story, and you need to have all the data and facts to be able to make that confirmed decision making with that. Sometimes it does become personalities, but I think it's important to dive into all of it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
We do have a comment from John Rosofsky online, who said he would like to comment on John Hoadley's great environmental record, and that John is very proud to have him on the board of trustees. John's proud of John.
Yeah, we really look forward to having him. I mean, I'm local. I mean, obviously I'm a three-peat from here. So, you know, I mean, some of them are, you know, some of the trustees are from different, I mean, Lynn's obviously from here, but it's nice to have local because they know the community and they know what's been invested in Western and the directions we can go and just the connections. And it can be a huge game changer for us.
All right, we have a question from Representative Stein.
Yeah, I guess just kind of bring it back to the base level. How does one qualify to be a board of trustees member? What does the governor look at in appointing board of trustees members?
Well, I think, you know, and a lot of times, I think, you know, the governor looks at obviously just qualifications, you know, just, you know, what's your work record and those kind of, have you been a good, not a convicted felon and things like that. But I think also, you know, are you alumni? You know, what is your work? Have you worked and contributed to you know, whatever university you're going to go to? And then I think it's just a matter of reflection on how they do it. I mean, there are always, having worked with the governor's office before on appointments, there are also thousands of qualified candidates. And sometimes it's just they look like the best available candidate to do it and are willing to do the work and would make a good fit because they're going to be available, versus you don't want to appoint somebody that shows up to a meeting once, you know, or twice. I mean, you want somebody that's going to be invested in it. And so sometimes I think that comes into play with a lot of them. And I think obviously with Representative Trustee Hoadley now, I think we'll get that.
Thank you. We have a question from Representative Pruitt.
Well, thanks for coming out tonight. A couple questions for you. The first one is regarding the budget. How is the budget all processed? How is it, you know, agreed on and given out to the university? If you can just touch that real quick.
Sure. Well, first question, budget. We have a lot of good staff. I'll just say that, you know, Dr. Schumann is one that keeps the train on the tracks all the time in terms of budget. You know, we discuss the budget and we look at how we need to direct for the budget, but a lot of it is when it comes to the board, it's basically already been done through the administration. I mean, Dr. Montgomery and the cabinet and everyone else involved really drives to figure out what needs to happen. Obviously, we have a certain amount of state funding, we know. I mean, we have outside funding. And then we have just, you know, what our general fund is we take in from student tuition and fees. I mean, you have to put that all together and equate what you can do at that point.
Okay, great. So I guess another question. So I'm a student in the College of Aviation, and I'm also a member of the Aviation Student Council. We've had some discussions with our college leadership with the new tax system that the university implemented on colleges. It's made it very, very hard for the College of Aviation to make some additional changes to the program that would really grow the program, I guess, in the future years. And we've actually had to turn away students from coming to one of the country's best aviation programs just because of lack of funding. That's stopped us from growing the program with more professors, more airplanes. You know, we have an awesome facility now, right? Great. Sure. But if you can't provide the professors and the airplanes needed for the program, you know, you kind of get stuck. So just wondering about, you know, how that tax system is really hurting or helping colleges and how it's kind of determined, if you know that.
I'm a little perplexed on the use of tax. That's why I'm you know, but I know the College of Aviation is definitely a star, but it's not necessarily always the funded rate correctly with the time and the space.
Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is a new SRM model. So as we move into a new budget model with strategic resource management, each division is going to be taxed differently depending on what the contribution is. So I know President Montgomery was just at the College of Aviation last week. Did you get a chance to connect with him?
I was not able, I was out of town, but unfortunately, I did have some representatives.
Okay, what I had heard from him after he got back was that he was committed to continue to work with interim Dean Thompson on making sense of a model that works. So one of the great features with the College of Aviation that's come about just within the last couple of years is a better understanding of cost per student and looking at the different aspects of whether or not you're training to be a pilot or whether you're training to be a mechanic, the different costs involved with that, and then figuring out how that model needs to come together to make sense. But I know that it's on the president's radar, and as we look at the future of strategic resource management, that's going to be important. I know that Dean Thompson had indicated that he was pleased to know that avenue for discussion is open now.
Thanks, Kayla.
I'll accept one more question if we have one.
Anything else?
I don't see anything, so thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, guys.
Vice Chair, Etherton, and thank you very much, Dr. Schumann, for being here as well. I think we make it an attendance requirement to bring chickens to all WSA meetings. All right, with that being said, I would now like to introduce our next guest speaker, the director of the Lewis Walker Institute, Dr. Bushara Wallace.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and share a little bit of information with you about the Lewis Walker Institute for the study of race and ethnic relations. Being true to my faculty status, I did prepare a PowerPoint, but it's only like 5 slides and it's full of pictures, okay? Because I just really wanted to make sure that you had a visual while I was speaking. So the first thing that I wanted to share and say to everyone is, I don't know how many of you were at last night's basketball game, or if you heard about last night's basketball game. But we are so proud of the 280 student athletes that were recognized last night for having a GPA of 3.0 or better. 280 were recognized during halftime. And so I just have to give them a round of applause. Once again, or squeeze the chickens. We can chicken it up. Did bring my chicken with me. I mean, y'all, that's fantastic. Like out of a possible 376 student athletes, to have that kind of number, I think that's amazing. And it speaks to the hard work and dedication of our students, you as students and our student athletes as well. I also have the distinct honor of serving as the faculty athletics representative for WMU. So I also like to lift that in them as in their dual roles as often as I can. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about who we are. We are a part of our academic affairs unit, and part of what we do and what we focus on at Lewis Walker Institute is we engage in teaching, research, and service to promote the understanding of race and ethnic relations, both on our campus, in Michigan, as well as nationally. And then one of our other primary concerns and areas of focus is to create more equitable and inclusive communities and institutions. That's what we're committed to doing. And so you might say, what does that mean? Like, how do we make that actually happen? But before I do that, I want to highlight this particular individual. This is Dr. Lewis Walker. He is the individual whom our institute is named after. And he was the very first African-American PhD faculty member tenured on this campus. And y'all online, I'm so sorry that you don't have the chickens. This is really quite fun. I might have to start bringing this to my classes. Anyway, so inspired right now. But he was the first, and certainly not the last. But we also know that it also brings to light the continued work that we have to do to make sure that our faculty represent our student body as well. And that's something that we're working towards to partner on. Next slide, please. So you might also wonder, like, what do we actually do for you as students? One of the things that we do for you that we're super excited about is we have a minor in race and ethnic relations. And so, oh yeah, next slide, please. Oh wow, it didn't catch up with you. That's kind of strange. Okay, we have a minor in race and ethnic relations. It's super cool, and here's why it's cool. It's 18 credit hours. We only have 2 mandatory courses, which is our LWIRE 3000 Immigration, Race, and Ethnicity, and our 4000 course, which is a research course. And that's actually a very small course, only 5 students at a time in that seminar, and they get to hang out with me 2 days a week, so it's lots of fun. The remaining 12 credit hours actually come from just a variety of different courses that you might take that are either a part of your West coursework or even just courses that you're like, this is really interesting. I don't know how this fits in my major, but I'm really interested in this particular topic. And we're usually able to craft a minor in race and ethnic relations that works really well for you to prepare you to change the world and to look at things in different perspectives and different ways. So if you're interested, let us know. It is housed in the College of Arts and Sciences. So any of the advisors over in Arts and Sciences can guide you. You can also reach out to me directly, and I will definitely sit down and spend time talking with you about it. Next slide, please. So you might also wonder, what else do we do? Well, we do a couple other cool things. You know, part of creating more equitable and inclusive communities and institutions is we like to have a lot of conversations and talks. And so a couple of things that we have recently done is we hosted the MLK Day teach-in. So instead of us hanging out and doing nothing in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., we had a wonderful series of discussions and conversations that were relevant to the theme. The time is always right to do what is right. And of course, our very own VP was right here. Your VP was on our panel. It was absolutely amazing. What a great day. We also host some of our, on Wider, we also have really cool podcasts that we've started to do. So you're invited anytime. We can talk about topics. It's a great thing that we're going to be having we have First Fridays. So usually the first Friday of every month, we have First Friday programs, again, just to have us an opportunity just to talk and discuss issues that sometimes are uncomfortable, but we're comfortable having those difficult conversations. One thing that I'd like to really highlight for you is that we're actually coordinating a community book read on the text Bleeding Out, and that's focus is actually on gun violence in our communities. And this is one that's not only just for Western, but we're also including our entire Kalamazoo community in this discussion. And so you are welcome to be a part of that. We will supply and provide books to our students free of charge. So if you want to participate, we always have your back. And so therefore, we just want you to know, again, reach out. There's opportunities for you to register. Next slide, please. We also try to provide opportunities for children, so those that are pre-college age, to get access to more equitable and inclusive communities and institutions. And one of the things that we do is we have our Wire Youth Development programs. What's cool about that is we're providing that access to them, but we also provide opportunities to you as students to work as student employees, to work as graduate students, graduate assistants, those kinds of things within our institute, because we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for growth both on campus and in our community. Our most active program right now is our Wire Summer Science and Math Academy, which is free for 3rd through 8th graders. They loved it so much, they now come back every other Saturday from 9 until noon to do more science and math. That's how much fun we have. Y'all didn't like that one. It's really Saturdays, but thank you. Thank you. We do have fun with science and math, and we've done some really other cool programs as well. We encourage you to follow us on social media. So that's our next slide. I told you, not a lot of slides, lots of pictures. We encourage you to follow us on social media at WMULWI. You can find out more information about programs that we're doing. I also want to extend the opportunity that if you're ever hosting events, or you've got programs or speakers or things of that nature that you want to make happen, but you're like, where do I go? Where do I find funding? Who do I talk to? Talk to us. Like I want to say back in September of 2019, WSA had an amazing opportunity to bring Corey Wise to campus. And it was like a scramble, mad dash. We had I think there was 7 days to get the funding together to pull that off and make that happen. And WSA came to us and we said, yes, we've got you. We want to be a part of this. We want to make sure that you have access to the top speakers and leaders in our country, in our community. And so we want to partner. So please just come and have conversations, and we'll see what we can do. And it doesn't have to always be those easy conversations. We welcome the complicated and difficult conversations. And actually for our Black History Month programming, we just hosted a showing of Antebellum, which was a movie. I don't know if you guys have seen the Antebellum movie with Janelle Monáe. Oh my gosh, y'all, it makes you think some kind of way. You have to see it if you haven't seen it. But anyhow, that's a whole other story. So that's what we did for Black History Month. I wanted to shout us out too, because we're trying to work too. All right, but thank you so much, everybody, for your time. I'll open up the floor to questions.
Same thing. If you have questions in person, raise your hand. If you have something online, please put me in the chat. Anybody have a question for Dr. Wallace? Representative Stein.
I'm known for my questions. How does one get involved in the work you guys are doing? I know you guys do a lot of programming and whatnot. Is there volunteer efforts and students come and join you in these things? How does one get involved?
Yes, yes, and yes. The way that you get involved, actually, you can, when you connect on social media, that's one great way to kind of reach out and let us know, hey, I'm interested, what can I do? Our telephone number is posted here. It's 269-387-2141. You can certainly call and say, hey, I want to register, I want to sign up. I know I should know our Walker Institute email address. It's something like LWI_LY, I don't know. Either way, you can email us as well. I can get you that information. But just call, hit us up on social media. We'll reach back out to you. But we're always looking for volunteers, always looking for people to engage and participate. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Dr. Wallace? Hearing and seeing none, I want to say thank you for all the great work that you do over at the Lewis Walker Institute. And thank you for taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you.
With that being said, as we transition into our next part, while I pull slides up, if you're hungry, we still have pizza in back, so please go eat. I don't want to take that home. All right, we are going to move into the reaffirmation of University Bill 2021-020. This was the climate resolution passed last year, and I would like to now invite Vice President Piper Meldrum-Roy to the podium to present it.
Great day. We have food, chickens, a new constitution. How about that? Yeah, so I will be, yeah, I'm short, right? Okay. Well, I hope you guys got my intro there. So I'm going to be quick. I have a trio rehearsal to get to, and like I said, the new constitution. I know we're all very excited about hearing about that. So if you don't know me, my name is Piper Meldrum-Roy. I'm your VP for Sustainability. I think John Rosowski is online, and he was a part of this. So John, if you ever want to comment, you can just interrupt me. So basically, what we've done is we've said that we are going to reaffirm the carbon neutrality resolution that was passed last year. So I guess the reason why this is important that we do this now is because last year this resolution was passed saying, hey, the students really think that sustainability is something that's important to us. We've said sustainability is important, as well as racial justice, and this all ties into carbon neutrality, and we can start at the university level to change things. So yeah, it's important that we kind of reaffirm this now because that was last year's student government, and so we want to reaffirm our commitment to sustainability and carbon neutrality and specifically. So yeah, basically, that is the one from last year. Did you get it nice?
This is the one you emailed.
Oh, that's not right. Oops. Okay. Anyway, so basically this new bill, it just says, whereas we affirm carbon neutrality resolution, call for university action to address the urgent climate crisis. It basically just references the bill from last year. Just wanted to let you guys know exactly what that bill looked like. And we have a bunch of co-sponsors that are new this year. I see Eric's he was scrolling through the bill from last year. We had like 3 pages of co-sponsors, but basically, the bill last year, some background on it is that my predecessor, Chelsea, as well as someone from Students for a Sustainable Earth, Ada, authored this resolution, and they did a lot of research on the importance of carbon neutrality and how urgent this is. And yeah, basically their big ask is that instead of 2065, that the university becomes carbon neutral by 2030, with a 45 to 50% reduction achieved by 2025. So that is the big ask there.
When you get a second, John has something to say.
Oh, yes, John, go.
Yes, I would just like to add that I also recently proposed this resolution to the Graduate Student Association, and they are also co-sponsors. So I just wanted to comment on how that shows university unity, especially when it comes to climate change. So that's a really good sign.
Exactly. So that's like another reason why this is important. And it's not just saying like, hey, we still believe in this. It's like we're with the GSA on this as well. So yeah, are there any questions?
So we don't have any questions at the moment. There's a vote. You moved the previous question.
Move the previous question.
Thank you. The previous question has been moved. So everyone, I'm just going to go through quick partly pro because make sure we want to get this right. So the previous question has been moved, which means we're going to skip the discussion period and we're moving into a vote right now. Now this vote is not to reaffirm this bill or not. This vote is to say whether we want to go into voting on reaffirming the bill or not. So you'll be voting to end discussion and move into voting.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there consent? Consent has been called. Is there any opposition? I do not count chicken squeaks as opposition, and for that reason, we consider this motion passed. Now we move into voting on reaffirming the bill itself.
So moved.
Consent.
So moved first.
You don't need to move consent. Consent's been called. Is there any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, then we would reaffirm the University Bill 2031. Thank you very much, Piper, for all your work in bringing this to us again. All right, we will now move into our next discussion, which is the revised Constitution presentation. And y'all, I'm so happy to say that we budgeted 30 minutes and we actually have 43.
We're not at questions, like, it's you guys are sure?
All right.
Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. We are very excited to be standing here in front of you today with a 61-page constitution. In front of you guys should be a QR code or a binder or both. Those house either the link to the document or the document itself. We request that all of the binders stay here. We've spent $24 that we donated to the bookstore for those binders, and we would like them back. But as we get into things, we'll start with introductions. First of all, my name is Lila. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the representative from the National Gay Pilots Association here, and this is my friend Sam.
As so politely introduced, my name is Sam Longlet. I am the senator, one of the senators for the Lee Honors College. I use he, him pronouns.
Perfect. And then I'm Alexis. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm president of the Western Student Association.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yep, yeah, so here, it's okay. Okay, just up is an agenda of things we're gonna talk about. We're gonna start with the origins, kind of go over each of the changes, breaking them down into branches. We did do a quite major overhaul, I'll be the first person to admit, and there's probably gonna be a lot of questions. So today we were just introducing it. We want to give you guys time to read, to understand it, to ask those questions. We don't want to force this down your throat. So please, at any point, if you have a question, raise your hand. We'd be more than happy to answer them. If you want to take some time to read through it, we did call an emergency joint session next week for the purpose of passing this. So if you don't have time today to read it, please read it between now and then, because we'd love your feedback. We know this is not a completely perfect document, but it has been our child for the past 20 days, and we're very proud to be standing in front of you and presenting it. So as we move on, Alexis, take it away.
Perfect. Okay, can we go to the next one? Okay. I guess I can. We just did. So as you all know, on November 10th of 2021, I sat in front of you and gave a presentation. And I launched Project X. And Project X. Sure, I know I talk loud. I don't think she's gonna have a problem hearing me, but no, I'm sure they can hear me too. So stood in front of you all and presented Project X, and I said, this is about changing our organization for the good, for the future of this organization, and identified 4 key areas with my team. Much of it came from your feedback. In those areas, one of them being governing processes, the other being finance and outreach and organizational culture and operations. And I don't know, I think that in itself speaks for itself for those of you who are newer to the organization and aren't aware of Project X. It really is that. The core of that is making sure that everyone in the organization who wants to make any of these 4 areas better had the opportunity to do so and be involved in the process. Each joint session, previous to this one, we've had opportunity for representatives and senators and cabinet members to get involved and break into these different committees. And so I couldn't be more proud of the governing process committee for making such a tangible document, because I don't think anyone can disagree that 61 pages isn't tangible. But yeah, with that being said, that's Project X, and that kind of talks about the origins of setting the framework and the foundation for where this came from.
All right, perfect. So we, as a committee, identified four key things that we wanted to do out of this. We were working from a constitution of 13 pages and a bylaws of about 20 pages. And we had gotten a lot of feedback that just wasn't working for the organization. And that's totally fine. Organizations grow, change, they evolve. So we came with these four main goals of 1, bringing the band back together. We are right now in 2 houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, which both function amazingly well, but they don't function amazingly well separate. So we would like to bring them back together, but both honor the purpose of what each individual houses were able to do, but bring them together so they can stand on their own once more as a unified body of both RSO reps and senators from each college. The second thing we wanted to do, thank you for the chicken speeches. The next thing we wanted to do is still make it easy for RSOs to get funding. We know that WSA is a huge place for RSOs to get funding, and we didn't want to put any barriers or limitations on that. So we were very careful in creating the document that we didn't supersede what the current allocations bylaws said, but also make room for them to do what they do best in the allocations process, because building a constitution shouldn't step on that at all. The other thing that we wanted to do was reduce cabinet and make cabinet a little bit more functional in its operation. I was told that it's kind of like 20 people just going about their own business, not really collaborating, working together. They each have their own individual subsections, which is perfectly fine, but we thought there's a more efficient way to do it. So as you'll see when we go through the cabinet legislature, created 3 tiers of cabinet. We've got our executive board, we've got our directors, and then we have our executive officers, which are our current vice presidents. And then the fourth thing that we wanted to do was consolidate all of our documents in one. Our current constitution didn't reference any of our secondary documents, allocations bylaws, basically they didn't reference anything. It just existed on its own. And we thought that was absolutely unacceptable for an organization of our size to not reference, fall back onto the bylaws and codes that existed for each of our branches. Those are our 4 goals. Feel free to tell us if we didn't achieve any of these 4 goals. We're pretty sure we did, but obviously on your guys' consent, we did.
So we have changed some things. Some things have stayed relatively the same. Just to start off with what I am most proud of, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the legislature. So as mentioned before, we are moving from a bicameral to a unicameral. This is to promote more inclusivity and also to allow all WU students to be able to join the WSA. The biggest, in my opinion, other than the bicameral to unicameral, is that every student at Western Michigan University is now technically considered a part of WSA as a non-voting member. No longer will we have closed doors to joining WSA. We now have opened the doors and allowed people the opportunity to gain voting status within the assembly, which is what we're going to do about. And that is the very biggest thing. We are keeping RSO RSO representatives, and their names being switched to RSO assembly members. Senators and their name are being changed to academic chairs, which is something we'll get into more in a little bit later here. And then non-voting members can earn their voting status and become general assembly members after attending 2 consecutive meetings. And then upon the 3rd, they will achieve their voting or receive their voting status. In addition to that, in the executive branch, we've, as mentioned before, we slimmed things down. We've added some positions as well. For example, one of the positions we're most proud of is the chief of staff. We're turning the vice president into an external role to more so easily assist the president. That being said, that's leaving a huge hole in the managerial aspect of the cabinet, leading to the position of chief of staff. In addition to that, we've also gotten our fingers on the judicial branch. Not much in that respect has changed, beside the fact that the Chief Justice now has the ability to give light interpretation of constitutional documents.
This is the new structure of the legislative branch. It may be a little bit hard to read, so I'll kind of walk you through it from top to bottom. As you guys have questions, as the majority of you guys are legislature people, please let me know if you have any questions. I'll explain anything more in depth. But at the top, we have the Speaker of the Assembly and the Secretary of the Assembly. The Speaker of the Assembly will be voted upon by the Assembly at the end of the spring semester every year. So they have the ability to roll through the summer, get their feet wet, get into the role a little bit. And the Secretary of the Assembly will be nominated by the Speaker and confirmed by the Assembly. Those 2 positions are non-voting positions. We then roll into our non-voting members, which we just said is currently everyone in at WMU that is enrolled in taking at least 1 credit hour. And then all of our voting members, which if you're a current voting member of WSA, you will have your voting rights rolled over. We're not going to take those away. But as soon as you hit 2 consecutive meetings and on your 3rd, you'll gain your voting rights, just to make that more accessible, more inclusive for everyone. But we also noticed that when opening up the doors for everyone, we also open up the doors for different experiences, different identities, different representations. And so going through this, we knew that we had to identify specific people that were designated as RSO liaison for funding reasons. So we went ahead and called those RSO assembly members. Those members gain their voting rights upon application to the assembly. So it's the same process that goes now. You submit your application, you're a voting member. But in our general assembly members, those members also hold a lot of different identities. I am standing here in front of you as an RSO representative, but I'm still from the College of Aviation. I have College of Aviation concerns. So we'll break this down into a little bit more in committees, but we have the opportunity for RSO assembly members and general assembly members to run to be the chair of their academic college, to do the function of what senators currently do and talk to their deans, work with their other college members in making changes in their college, making a little bit of ruckus when they don't like things happening, and to do town halls to represent their college on the university level.
Fantastic. I guess I'll take it away with the executive branch. So at the top, we still have the student body president and student body vice president. But from there, you have a chief of finance and a chief of staff. So for those of you who don't know, WSA does have the WSAC allocation commission, as well as the sustainability grant committee in partnership with the Office for Sustainability. So the chief of finance will not only do the internal financing for the organization, but it will also assist the allocations and sustainability directors with their responsibilities, making sure that they have adequate membership for each of their commissions and committees. And then on the other side, half of it, if you're looking at it visually, you have the executive chief of staff. And so they will oversee pretty much everyone that has a line directly underneath them. So both directors for both marketing and outreach, as well as information management. And then all of the executive officers, I apologize, and I can't really read that from here. So we have executive officers for academic affairs and student affairs, as well as university pride, officer for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then the officer for governmental affairs. So the first 4 that I mentioned are all the same. Governmental affairs is political affairs, just kind of a little bit more matured now.
I think in terms of title, and then. Sorry, Mariella. And then we did get rid of community involvement and roll that into university pride. A lot of what university pride did already was in community involvement, so we thought it would naturally bake into university pride. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'll talk about judicial.
So we envision the judicial branch of the Western Student Association existing more so outside than the other two branches, more so to provide an interpretation of Constitution and to step in when necessary. That being said, we have given a lot of power to the judicial branch to operate as its own. So essentially now the Chief Justice, which is a nominated position by the President, will appoint 6 associate justices. And then when it comes election time, one of those associate justices will be appointed by the Chief Justice to now chair the elections promotion committee as the new EPC chair. So another big change that we've made within the WSA is we've gotten rid of standing committees. In the past, I know they've been controversial just on the fact that, it's kind of hard to run. So instead, in replacement of that, we now have committees that can be created at any time by any executive, presidential cabinet member. So for example, the new executive officer for governmental affairs, if they so choose, wants to create a committee towards working on dinner with the delegates. They now have the power to do that whenever they want and to dissolve it whenever they want. In addition to that, we also have rolled over the position of the Senate, a position of the senator into academic chairs. So essentially what that is people from their respective colleges who wish to take on extra responsibility within the assembly will come up to approach the speaker and be like, hey, I want to chair the academic. I want to be the academic chair for the honors college. And then so that will go to a vote in front of the assembly, and then they will now be the new chair of the the Lee's Honors Committee. That being said, they have the ability to appoint a co-chair and anyone else in their committee that they so shall see fit. In addition to that, they also have the same responsibilities of a current senator, that means a town hall meeting and a meeting with the dean. And they have special, they're a little different than chairs, because all other committees exist at the discretion of the speaker. So if, let's say, you're really passionate about, I don't know, how a lot of the sidewalks on campus aren't being salted. So now you can go ahead and you can approach the speaker and be like, hey, I would like to create a committee towards solving this issue. And then the speaker, will allow it. And then it'll continue to run until there is either no longer a need for one, or the speaker assesses it and says, okay, you guys aren't really doing what you're supposed to be doing, and there's a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted resources here. We're going to go ahead and disband this committee. So committee is another one of the huge changes that we've made in this legislature, and one of the ones I'm most proud of, as a matter of fact. And so, yeah.
Fantastic. I will then go ahead and talk about elections. So essentially in the past, we've only defined what a general election is, and that is the election that happens in the spring semester to nominate an executive slate, as well as any constitutional changes or referendums for the university. But now we've introduced 2 other types of elections, or at least defined them. I think that in the past operations of WSA, they've been alluded to, but never defined. And so we have special elections and we have internal elections. So special elections can be called during the fall semester to ratify constitutional changes and or any other referendums of interest. But then internal elections are enacted if any line of succession in the legislative or executive branches is exhausted. We've kind of made that nearly impossible, but in the event that it ever happened, you'd be able to run an internal election. So one of the changes that Sam mentioned earlier was the Election Promotions Committee. So the Election Promotions Committee will be chaired by an associate justice. And again, that chair will be deemed or appointed by the Chief Justice, and that's going to be an associate justice just to make sure that they're staying neutral to the best of their ability, because they'll be pretty far removed from anything happening in the executive or legislative branches. And then they'll also remain as an inactive member in the Judicial Council. So as soon as they're done with the election, they're able to go resume their positions. So we're not worried about uneven courts. And then the final thing, I think one of the most exciting things is that once this passes, or if it passes, the executive slate will be composed of a president, a vice president, and a chief of staff. So 3 people will be running on a slate together should this constitution pass. Perfect. This is what I'm most proud of, but you can see through this.
the appendix, so quick note, we obviously are just introducing a constitution. You may be like, well, where's the bylaws? Like, don't you need to change the bylaws too? That is correct. We basically split the constitution into 3 parts. The first part is considered a normal constitution, which has to be ratified by the student body for change. The second part is what was the bylaws, which can be changed by the legislature. It goes into the more finite details about things that can be changed from year to year if need be. And then part 3, the appendix, is going to house all of our external documents. Like I said, one of our big goals was to make sure that all of these external documents that exist and serve WSA are also reflected in our, core documents. So all of those documents are housed in the appendix. The speaker's code, which you may be like, Lila, what's the speaker's code? The speaker's code is our new form of Robert's rules. So it's got guidelines it has to have, but we understand that each assembly is going to be unique in its needs and wants. So we gave the power to the speaker to understand how meetings are run, how votes are counted. You can do counts by chicken squeaks now if you wanted to, if it's in the speaker's code. Exactly. I think that should be a great idea for the next speaker. So that's where the power held. We're no longer referencing an ancient book that's written by someone who didn't know what WSA needed. Is written by someone in WSA who knows what WSA needs. The next thing is the marketing code, which is going to be drafted by our new director of marketing and outreach, which is just going to outline what the marketing things of WSA need to be. Make sure we have a solid brand identity, guidelines, posts, things like that. So, programs within WSA that need to be posted on social media, need to be outward facing, can all have the same guidelines and whatnot. The allocations bylaws are also going to be housed there. We are very excited for the changes that went by earlier this year. And then the student election code is also going to be housed in the appendix. And then also in the appendix are going to be the diagrams that you guys just saw us up on the screen. They're actually in the very back of your book. So we're going to have, outlines and guidelines to make WSA more accessible. If you're walking in for the first time, our idea was you can read this 61-page document and understand how, why, and where we function. And then the other thing that it holds is this diagram and student assessment fee. That's a really big, gray area for a lot of students. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The student assessment fee diagram is in there wrong. I put a wrong arrow in there. So that'll be the first amendment that goes up next week, is I have to redraw the student assessment fee diagram. But then there's also the WSA pay scale. So there's complete transparency as to how and what your WSA cabinet members are getting paid.
Perfect. And so I don't want to take all the credit, because it definitely wasn't me, and it definitely wasn't just these 3, or us, these 2, and so us 3 together. That is from night 1. We look much more alive when we did that. But this was night 1 in the Student Organization Center, and so there's been multiple members across, across all branches that have been helpful. So Dakota, thank you. Griffin, Eric, Alicia, Alex, Colin, Travis, Ashley, and Tim Kids. So I think with that being said, we're ready to move into questions. I'm sure you have them. So, who has the first question?
If no one has a question, I have a clarification point that I realized that we didn't put in the PowerPoint that we should probably explain, is how meetings work. So as you know, we opened the door to everyone, and then we said, there are RSO members, and you're like, wait a minute, the House of Reps only has to come every other week. I don't want to come every week. I'm in the House of Reps. I've got a lot of questions about this. So we basically transformed it, and there's 2 types of meeting in WSA. There's a voting meeting and there's a non-voting meeting. RSO reps and General Assembly members have to be at voting meetings because they're voting on things. But every other week, or as we intended, it's open for interpretation as to who the meeting person is. There's going to be a non-voting meeting. So that's meetings where you have guest speakers, you do, development and things like that. Voting members have to be at those meetings, but RSO Assembly members don't. They can come if they so want to, but we really want those RSO members at the bare minimum doing what they do now, is coming every other week and voting on behalf of their RSO. So the question, to answer the question you didn't have.
With that being said, are there any questions for our panel? Speaker Shapiro. Also, if you're online, put me in the chat. We'll make sure to get to you.
Why'd you make such a poopy constitution? No. No. How many hours? Did anyone count that?
Too many?
Too many. That's all.
If I had to go ahead and guess, I'd say in between 72 and 80.
Enough to start hating each other, I'm sure.
Within the past 20 days.
At least. No. All right, I'm done.
So I'm Education's Vice Chair Shankit. So there's one general concern that I talked about and I voiced it out before, is that for the election where you need the chief of staff to join the executive slate, there's an engagement issue right now. So I'm just afraid that it creates an accessibility issue, where like there's no one's gonna run because they don't get fulfill three-person fields.
Hello, sorry. I think that's a great question, a very valid question. As someone who's ran a slate, I know it is exhausting sometimes to find one person running with you. So now you're like, how do I find two? And I think that the reason that we did this change in particular, and it was much deliberation in the student organization center on that whiteboard, of course, is that one, whoever wins is going to have to find the chief of staff somehow, some way anyways. And if they can't find it to run with in the first place, then how can we trust that they'll find someone to do it once they're in office? And I think the second thing is that this solves or helps solve some of our engagement issue. When you have more students on a slate, there's more visibility and certainly more promotion of the election, because you have 3 students who are now tapping into their networks to try and gain votes rather than just 2. I don't know. And I also think that it's also important that someone on the slate is representative of just the Western Student Association, because right now the president and vice president will now be switching external, which is fantastic. I know none of you have spent a day in my shoes, but if you have, you know I have anywhere from 10 to 12 meetings in just a span of 3 days. So it can be very exhausting. Yeah, I think that is pretty much the change. I don't know if either of you have more to add.
Yeah, I was gonna also say, as of right now, our line of succession stands President, VP, Chief of Staff. And for us, it was very important to honor that the Chief of Staff role is just that important. They are the sole responsibility of internal management of the cabinet. And like Alexa said, and we're facing the WSA. So that's a very important position, and we wanted it to be seen as this. They should also run.
And if I might add, we see these new this new chief of staff position, whereas the VP is the right hand of the president, the chief of staff is the left hand, and you gotta have 2 to have a body. And so these prospective slates need to be able to prove to the student body that they have the resources available to be able to represent them and to run the Western Student Association effectively.
Real quick, I saw in the chat that someone with QR code's not working, so I put the other one up. Let me know if that's gonna fix it. Otherwise, we'll go try to find the link. Other questions?
Y'all voting yes, I think?
What would you recommend for someone who would like to make some changes to the Constitution as we go into our joint session next week?
Yeah, so the best way to make the changes and to keep the joint session as efficient as possible is if you have ideas, reach out to us. We know this document like the back of our hand, and we love to provide you context as to why we did or didn't make the change you so proposed, and we want to work with you to make that change, to make sure it fits into the document, it's cohesive. Because sometimes, as we learned as we're sitting through reading this line by line, we're like, wait, this one change applies, 7 other places. So we want to make sure that change is effective and cohesive throughout the document. So if you would love to make a change, we'd love to hear it. We understand that we as a group of 10 people are not perfect, and that there's other perspectives that want to be joined in on the conversation. So we'd love if you reach out to us. Probably the easiest way would be through Alexis or emails, the most published. And we'd love to have the conversation, the discussion about your perspective and what you want to bring in, not to gatekeep or stop you from making those changes, but to make sure those changes are as effective and as cohesive as possible.
I would also just ask from a joint session perspective, if you could CC me on that way I can have a list of things ready to go through when that joint session starts, try to keep it as efficient as possible.
I already need to change the student assessment fee document.
I will put that on there.
Nothing in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Other questions?
So as a new member of WSA, I'm not really sure what happened in years past in the T, and frankly, I don't care. I just want to know what was so bad about the old Constitution and how this needs to fix it.
That's a great question, and I think that's very subjective. I think that the primary problems that we had with the Constitution right now were what were outlined in our 3 goals. Cabinet was way too big. Frankly, it's just not just a lot of people on payroll that, if they resign, we have to keep replacing and then figuring out their accounts, and then are they getting overpaid? And that's just, it becomes an abuse of the student assessment fee at some point. And so that was one. I think 2, From the Senate side, there wasn't enough support for the senators to be able to do what they were tasked with doing. I think Dakota shared with me, and it's okay that I say this, most of the senators at the end of last fall were impeachable by the Constitution and bylaws terms, which is not sustainable for the future of this organization, and certainly not sustainable for our representation and reputation on this campus, especially with our college deans and people that we hope to take us seriously. Because when we bring up issues, we want to make sure that we, have our ducks or chickens in a row. So yeah, I think that all of the goals are what the problem was, especially the one that bothered me the most is how you have all of these external documents that you don't know where to find. Right now, the judicial code, does anyone know where to find it on our website?
No, ma'am.
No, you have to go to the Chief Justice's About Me page and click on the judicial code link. Now, it's not even a call out, it's in the middle of a paragraph. So if that answers your question, I think that there was just a lot of accessibility issues surrounding the documents.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. Is there a mechanism in the Constitution where like you have to review all the bylaws annually?
Yes. So it is listed in the position of the person whose responsibility it is. So for the allocations bylaws, it's the director for allocations. That is their job to one, review. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just going up. The person has to review the document. And two, it has to go up to the legislature for review each year.
Real quick, Chen, did you mean allocations bylaws or the whole Constitution bylaws?
Yeah, they all have to go up for review each year before they can be instituted.
Thank you.
How many chairs will there be from executive college? Are we keeping them at 2?
Just one.
Just one. Okay, and then I had a second question, if that's all right. How many General Assembly members do we expect?
I mean, I hope there's about 15,000 of them, but my hopes may be a little bit low. No, I think that's a really great question. I think we operate between like 80 and to 100 members as of right now. And so in opening our doors, we hope to continue at least the 80 to 100 number. But it is our hope that WSA grows because in making this a more inclusive place, we want to accept everyone, their views. We know that there's many more people who have issues on campus than the people that are sitting in this room right now. So our goal is just accessibility. And I mean, if WSA grows to be way too big one day, then that's maybe something where they go and revisit the Constitution and decide. But I think WSA has a lot of room for growth and making this for the future generations.
And I'm gonna quick tack onto that. I think the beauty, honestly, of this change with the non-voting members in particular is that I can't tell you how many emails I get from students that are like, I'm upset about X. All right, well, as of right now, you need to go find a representative or a senator that's willing to sponsor a bill or have a conversation on the floor. And so non-voting members in this Constitution are able to speak on the floor, introduce legislation, they just can't vote. And then, so if it's a bigger issue, all they have to do is attend two meetings in a row, and then on their third, they're able to vote as well. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary.
Real quick, we have some a comment in the chat. John said he'd like to congratulate the whole team for the timeless effort. So
thank you, John. Much appreciated.
I can't remember, for clarification, was that 2 voting meetings or 2 meetings that like at all, voting or non-voting?
At all.
At all, 2 meetings at all.
And then upon the third, you get your.
Yeah, so they're consecutive meetings, so they'd have to like within the 2 meetings attend at least a non-voting and a voting, so they like get the sense of like what WSA is, and they're like, oh, I like it. I'll attend my third. They're like, nah, this is crap. I'll go somewhere else.
Again, just would like to comment on behalf of both the senior administration and the board, just as a kudos to you. 30 years ago, I was in a similar seat as you, and at Lake Superior State University, we redid our Constitution. If you search it, you'll still see a Thomas Jefferson quote in the preamble that still survives to this day, even though it's changed several times since then. But it's a lot of effort, a lot of time, and kudos to you, not only for what it means for the students who are here now, but for the students who are in the future. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Yes.
For the assembly members that gain the status after they go to the 3 meetings, is there any way for them to lose the status by like not attending meetings or something like that?
And so we have answered that question in the Constitution. I can't remember exactly where it is, but essentially, if you have two unexcused absences, and by unexcused, that'll be defined in the speaker's code, so it's up to the speaker's discretion. You can lose your voting status, and so that was kind of the way that, yes, we are opening the floodgates, but now we have the way to close them, if so need be.
And just real quick, if you do lose your voting rights, can you regain them?
Yes, you may, both as a registered student organization assembly member and a general assembly member.
Yeah, I'm gonna add the RSO rep thing. So we also recognize that there are different needs for general students and RSO reps. So if you are a voting member, you attend the next two meetings, you get them on the 3rd. The exception being if the RSO rep loses their voting status, then they leave, and then they send a new member. That new member gets it immediately upon application.
Any question follow on that?
No.
So,
You then Chris and then.
okay, so question about the Chief Justice role. So it sounds like the president is going to choose their Chief Justice, correct? So with that, then the Chief Justice chooses their Associate Justices. My question is checks and balances with that, because I know that even in our current government, right, all things politicized. And so what's the way of keeping the Chief Justice panel or the Associate Justices from kind of becoming one politicized slate? So you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, valid concern. And I think in addressing this, when we did give a lot of power to the judicial branch, as they are operating outside the bounds of what, WSA is on a day-to-day basis. But everyone in this new constitution is impeachable. So, if the Chief Justice is just going on a rampage, they've got their own agenda. Someone can introduce, articles of impeachment against them for violating their duties. Actually stated in every one of the roles in the Constitution is to maintain the integrity of the Western Student Association. So in that, if they are not maintaining the integrity, they have their own agenda, they're not operating as a Chief Justice, that is an impeachable offense, and articles of impeachment can be brought against them.
And then it falls to that, if the impeachment process does go through, is it just a general vote for the General Assembly?
Yeah. So all impeachment processes go through the Assembly.
Two questions. First one was similar to Matthew Pruitt's, was with the justices. Did you all discuss kind of pros and cons of switching that selection of justices to alter under the Chief Justice? Currently, there was it's spread out across two president administrations, and I like the idea of having the Chief Justice be involved in that, but swinging it all the way over to the Chief Justice gives me a little bit of worry. But could you all share some context about pros and cons of that?
Yeah, I think that the primary concern came from as an outgoing president. If I appoint 3 people and those people don't stick, there's no things in the current constitution or bylaws that outline who then selects them. Obviously, it falls on the incoming president, but it shouldn't, in our opinion. If we're going to have it be the 3 out, if it's going to be outgoing and incoming, then it needs to have basically you can't force people to stay over the summer and into the fall. And so that was the premise for switching it away from prior. And then, so if we have the issue with the prior administration giving 3, well, then we don't want to swing the other way and give the president the responsibility of filling the entire council, because they're appointing the Chief Justice and then, helping assist the entire court. And so then, articles of impeachment come up against the president. Well, they selected the court. It's also imbalanced that way. I also think associate justices, can you two help me? Are they confirmed by the legislature?
Yes.
Yes. So the legislature still has the power to confirm or not confirm them as well. Did that answer your question?
Not really. You explained why you moved away from it, which makes sense. I support that. But in terms of where you landed, what were the pros and cons of?
It was between then, so we moved away from the old administration. So then we were faced with, okay, so how are we going to fill the court? Do we give the Chief Justice the ability to appoint our court, or do we give the president the ability to fill the entire court? When we're already giving the president the responsibility of picking the Chief Justice, so that there's still some leeway there because the Chief Justice still has voting rights in the court. But it isn't like the president has control over the entire court.
And then we historically have had issues with impeaching because it can be very messy and very public. And so either you have a fairly detailed process in the Constitution or bylaws how to do impeachment.
In impeachment, yeah, I guess I'm going to defer this one to Stam, as Stam wrote this section.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. And so we have the four different kinds of ways of leaving the Constitution outlined in, oh dear, I believe Article 7, entitled leaving WSA. And that being said, we have basically an overview of what the impeachment should be in the Constitution, and then I'll hammer it out a little more. Essentially, what we wanted to allow the Speaker's Code to go over what articles of impeachment should look like. In addition to that, I mean, if you would like to, impeachment is labeled under 7.3. If you guys are curious, I don't know what page that's on. 32. Wow. Essentially, the impeachment trial shall be held in the Assembly, and at least a 2/3 majority concurrence in the Assembly is required to impeach. And there, we also gave Assembly members and just members of WSA in general an additional ability, and that is outlined in 7.4, and that is expulsion. That is impeachment plus. What we envisioned impeachment as is kind of the reverse to what is outlined in 7.2, which is dismissal. In 7.2, essentially what a dismissal is the chief executive officer of every single branch rescinding their appointment or their nomination. And what impeachment is the Assembly's ability to rescind their confirmation. And so if impeachment does not go far enough, any member within WSA has the abilities to bring up articles of expulsion, which will expel a member of the Western Student Association for the rest of the academic year.
Of note, we wanted to make expulsion the last possible measure. So expulsions has to be a 3/4 majority concurrence by the Assembly, as in we don't want to expel just everyone. Not everyone deserves to be expelled. And hopefully, frankly, I believe no one should have to be expelled. We wanted that in there just in case as that little protective measure of WSA.
All right, we have our last question due to time. Speaker Shapiro.
Mine's less of a question and just more of a, I would really, really like to give credit where it's due to Sam Longlet for if it weren't for his constitutional knowledge and prowess, this document wouldn't be what it is. And we certainly wouldn't have had it done by this point in time. So I really would like a round of applause for Senator Sam.
And I would just like to note how just incredibly honored and humbled I am to be able to work on this project, and how excited I am to see it become real, if possible.
Yeah. And as a final note, like I said before, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this document between now and Wednesday, or if you have concerns, if you want to write an amendment, if you want to have a conversation about it, we love this document, and we would love to hear your changes, questions, comments, or concerns about this document at any time. So just reach out to us. We are now relatively free that we have spent our 80 hours on this document, and would love to hear you out.
I have a first.
WSA-president@wmich.edu.
You can also talk to me as well.
And please
I'll give you your email.
CC WSA-vice-president.
We also accept carrier pigeons, telegrams, notes, knocks on the door.
Smoke signals.
Stones through.
I think as a final note, thank you again to everyone that helped work on this. The other thing I want to say is that this is I believe it's the only thing on the agenda for next week. So the more prepared that you come, the faster that we can get out of here, and the faster we can go about probably enjoying the vice presidential debates. So with that being said, please come prepared. They've worked so hard on this, so thank you.
Sorry for that. At this point, we're going to go into oral remarks. I do have two, and then I'll hand it off to the floor for anyone else. First of all, Dr. Schumann, who is here, and I are looking for a couple of students, either at the graduate or undergraduate level, to have a discussion with us on seeing how international students might be able to carry flags in at the commencement ceremonies going forward. We really think this would be a great way to represent our international students, especially as that might be the only time that their family is present with them on campus. And also, if any of you remember back to your matriculation ceremony, for those of you that are old like me and had that in person, we have all the international flags hanging in Miller Auditorium on matriculation, which is a great start to their journey at WMU. And we think it would be a great end to their journey. Well, not total end, but their omega to their classwork at WMU, being able to carry their nation's flag into the commencement ceremony. So if you are interested, please feel free to stay after and talk to myself or Dr. Schumann, or you can email either one of us. We'd really love any student that's interested. So that is our first oral remark. Second one, I just want to get some feedback for those of you that are in person. What did you think of the room setup today? I know it's a little bit different than what we're used to. Do we like this? Should we keep it moving forward? Do we like the other arrangement?
This is better.
All right, if you're in favor of the previous semicircle, please raise your hand. If you're in favor of this, please raise your hand. Well, that's pretty much split. Okay, we'll actually count this time. So for real, if you're in favor of the semicircle, please raise your hand. Yes. Also, if you're online and have been in person with the semicircle. Yeah, Alan, could you please do that real quick? Yes, cabinet counts because you get to be here and experience it. So cabinet can vote on this. Everyone online, this is the current setup.
Well, I gotta get rid of this trash.
Lift up the camera.
All right, if you are in favor, please raise your hand online of the semicircle, or in person, raise your actual hand.
In favor of this setup?
In favor of the semicircle.
Oh, previous.
I count 10.
Oh, that person was not for there.
Oh,
Oh, now we got someone on.
all right, now I actually have 10. All right, thank you.
Oh, 11.
Oh, make it 11. All right. If you are in person of the current setup, please raise your hand, virtually or online, either option.
One more up there now.
All right, so with a vote of 11 in the semicircle and 13 in this current setup, we will continue with the current setup for next week. We can reevaluate after that and see if there are other opinions. So thank you very much. At this time, I'll open the floor up to anybody else who would like to make an oral remark. If you're online, please feel free to stay here. If you're in person, raise your hand. I'll want the microphone over to you. We will.
Dakota and I both have something.
All right, both you two can start off.
We're resigning.
Me too.
Hi, everyone. It is the last meeting of the month, which means this is legislative recognition. So to start out, we'll start with the senator of the month. We didn't have a speech, did we? Okay, good. Because I didn't prepare one. All right. So this month's senator of the month is Senator Emily Principe from the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences. She's worked very hard in her short tenure here. She's taking the initiative to try and get more options at Party Cafe, which is something not even I had tried to do. And so it's quite commendable. And so with that, I'd like to thank her wherever she is.
And I'm not going to say all that again. I'm just going to say that the representative of the month for this month is Haley Rude, representing Alpha Omicron Pi. So I don't know if anyone's here. We want to do an email with you.
Get backpacks.
Haley's online with me. She's my roommate. I'll let her know.
Beautiful. I will email her. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Happy Western Wednesday. I just wanted to let you know that the RSVP form is still open for dinner with delegates. That will close next Friday, March 4th at 11:59 p.m. So if you still need to register, the link is, I'll send out another email with more details. I'm now having some delegates confirmed, so I'll send those out in the coming days. It's in the Slack channel, in the Legislature Slack channel. So yeah, really excited for that. You will also get a tour of the new beautiful Student Center. So I hope to see you guys out. Thank you.
Okay, so next week I'm planning on having a as you all know, it's midterm, so that means that next week I'm planning on having a coffee and donuts kind of event for students where you can just get donuts and coffee and wait for good luck for the exam. So if anyone wants to help me coordinate that, please see me after the meeting. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to the people I've worked with. I'm working on the new constitution. You guys have sacrificed so much commitment, time, and effort for this, and I truly think we are going to make probably the biggest difference in our lives and on throughout our college career. And I honestly think this document is gonna shift not just the organization, but the campus community forever in ways that will make our impact worthwhile and everlasting even after we're gone from this organization.
Also, there's a bunch of free stuff in the back that we want to get rid of because new logo coming soon. Stay tuned.
So one of the initiatives that we're working on in the Project X org ops and culture committee is getting more fun nights for you guys so that we can like become actual friends instead of just WSA friends. So that being said, March 18th and 19th, we're planning some super fun things, including Revel and Roll one night. There's like Willy Wonka's coming to Miller Auditorium. And we want to go see that with everybody. So if you're not in the WSA Fun Times group me, come see me and I can get you the link to that. I can get you added to that. But yes, I'm very excited. Yes.
I'm going to Chris, and I'll come back to you, Tim, all right?
Real quickly, I'm Chris Sly, I'm the Director for Office of Student Engagement, so I'm wearing that hat right now. Our office is partnering with Marcom, Visions, several other offices in student affairs for a thing called Western Weekend. It's April 2nd, and so what we're looking for, there's three main components. There's in the morning, there's going to be a breakout session, so panelists, so students, sorry, let me slow down. Western Weekend is an opportunity for folks that are thinking about coming to Western. They've been admitted, but maybe they're undecided. So we're going to do one more big push to really showcase student life. And so in the morning from 10 to noon, there will be breakout sessions. And so you all as student leaders would be great panelists to field questions from students. So if you're interested in that, please see me, shoot me a message, whatever, so signal, whatever, just let me know. So that's the first part. The second part is going to be a more general, like kind of tabling fair. That's going to be, I think, after lunch. So an email has gone out through Colin. Thank you so much for that. But just saying another reminder of that, of if you want to be able to actually begin to recruit students, that would be a great opportunity to do that. I just got wind, the latest update, we have about 100 minute students plus their families. So the number of folks coming to this is starting to go up. We're really excited about. The biggest thing that I'm most excited about is at the end of the day is it's called the main event. It's going to be basically a talent show of sorts. And so different performances, things like that that are happening in a lot of different spaces, whether it be a drag show, whether it be international festival, whether it be a step show performance. And we're going to bring all of that into one space in Reed Fieldhouse. So that's going to be open to students, current students, and obviously our guests as well. So we're super excited about that. So if you think that you are part of a group that's done some sort of performance, whether it be even a cappella or whatever, you want to talk to me about that too. We're kind of curating that list as well. So, but yeah, market calendars. It's going to be a really good time on that Saturday. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
So hi everyone, I'm the Allocations Vice Chair Chankit. So technically, the February deliberation will be on this Friday. So to those representatives that will be attending the deliberation, please come 30 minutes earlier. Just a reminder. Secondly, if anyone's interested, just to hop on. Alex is interested to join us. So if anyone's interested, just take a look at how the new process looks like. You guys can just hop on. So just that's all. Thank you.
Are there any other oral remarks, either in person or online? Hearing and seeing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there consent? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, the motion passes and our meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all for coming and have a good rest of your week.